welcome to the show. In this episode, we are going to look back at some of the things that were widely used before. In this particular instance, a part called Wite-Out, known as Tipex in some parts of the world. And so let's dive in and look at this topic. Who still buys Wite-Out and why? Correction fluids have improbably outlasted the typewriter and survived the rise of the digital office. Christmas time is when the pens in people's houses gets their biggest workout of the year. Like many Americans above grammar school age, people seldom write by hand anymore, outside of barely legible grocery lists. But the end of the year brings out a slew of opportunities for penmanship, adding notes to holiday cards to old friends, addressing them, and then doing the same with thank you notes after Christmas. And given how little people write in the other 11 months of the year, that means there are a lot of errors, which in turn spur a new connection with another old friend, Wite-Out. The sticky white fluid and its chief rival, liquid paper, are peculiar anachronisms, throwbacks to the era of big hair, big cars, and big office stationery budgets. They were designed to help workers correct errors they made on typewriters without having to retype documents from the start. But typewriters have disappeared from the modern office, relegated to attics and museums. Even paper is disappearing from the modern office as more and more functions are digitized. But correction fluids are not only surviving, they appear to be thriving, with Wite-Out sales climbing nearly 10% in 2017, according to the most recent public numbers. It's a mystery of the digital age. One sign of the cultural impact of the Wite-Out brand is that, like Kleenex, it has become a generic term. But it wasn't the first. Liquid paper dates back to the 1950s when Betty Nesmith Graham, a struggling divorced mother, took on typing jobs to make money. The problem was that she wasn't a good typist and kept making mistakes. So she began experimenting with ways to cover up errors, enlisting her son Mike to help her. This creative streak would help Mike in his career as an artist, first as a member of the Monkees, and later as a producer of films including Repo Man. In 1958, she patented liquid paper. There were other products that achieved the same goal, such as strips of sticky paper that covered up errors, but liquid paper quickly eclipsed them, so much so that it soon drew imitators. In 1965, Tipex began producing its own fluid in Germany. Some people say imitation is the best form of flattery. A year later, George Kloosterhaus and Edwin Johannecht, searching for a product that wouldn't show up when a document was photocopied, developed Wite-Out. It's difficult for anyone raised in the age of computers to grasp how useful correction fluids must have been when typewriters were a dominant technology in offices and classrooms. Of course, correction fluids are useful for things other than typewriting. In the pre-laser printer era, It was often easier to correct a document from a dot matrix printer by hand than to reprint it. Some of us will remember those days. Handwritten documents in ink were also more easily corrected with whiteout than rewritten. But today, even printer sales are down. Casualties of an era where more and more writing is executed on screen and never printed or written out at all. In fact, the office supply industry as a whole is slumping. Just ask Staples. According to a report by the analysis from the tech firm Navio, the U.S. stationery and office supply market is essentially flat. Projected to go from $86.4 billion in 2015 to $87.5 billion by 2018. The paper industry has had it especially bad. So that's according to Navio, an analysis firm. Yet, correction fluid remains remarkably resilient. As early as 2005, the New York Times pondered the product's fate with trepidation. Somehow, more than a decade on, it has kept its ground. According to the MPD group, which tracks marketing data, sales of correction fluid grew 1% from 2017 to 2018, though they fell 7% the year before. As a correction tapes were flat, while correction pens are fading. From 2015 to 2016 to 2017, BIC, which makes Wite-Out and Tipp-Ex, reported that correction products increased in share from 5 to 6 to 9% of the global stationery market. It's a little less clear how liquid paper is doing. Newell, which owns the brand, doesn't break down earnings enough to tell, and the company didn't respond to requests for comment. Who's still buying these things? All the best answers are mostly conjecture. Adweek suggested that sales might be buoyed by artists using fluid as paint. A BIC spokesperson pointed to a series of weird and entertaining interactive YouTube ads for Tipp-Ex in Europe and said that Wite-Out is launching colored dispensers that will appeal to younger consumers. That sounds faintly ridiculous. What use is a colorful bauble to a digital native? But there may be something to it. Even as paper sales dip, upmarket stationery is one sub-segment that is expected to grow thanks to millennial affection for personalized stationery. Tia Frappoli, the president of MPD's office supplies practice, pointed to bullet journaling and hand lettering as paper-based trends that could breathe some life into correction fluids. Wite-Out is a strange place for serial-killing millennials to offer clemency. In part, the attraction to the material is the same as any other handmade or small batch product. The physical act of covering up a mistake is important, imperfect, but more satisfying than simply hitting backspace. There's also a poignancy to a screwed generation gravitating toward Wite-Out. You can't erase the past any more than you can erase a printed typo on a written error. But you can paper it over and pretend it didn't happen. Very interesting. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks for stopping by. Please hit the like and subscribe to the channel. Really helps. We do appreciate it. Head over to buymeacoffee.com/Samson King. Make a small donation. Goes a long way. As always, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.